Before the NBA playoffs, I had said the top 10 NBA players. I listed them in order from number 10 for number one. Number nine on my list is the most recent NBA Finals MVP, Nikola Jokic. I said I needed to see Nikola Jokic. Prior to the NBA bubble, he never got to a Western Conference Finals. Before this season, he never got to an NBA Finals. And at times this postseason, it looked like Jamal Murray was the guy on the night for the Denver Nuggets when Nikola Jokic disappeared, specifically in the Lakers series, game 2 and 3, which, again, shockingly, as I mentioned on Tuesday, the Lakers took Denver to 4 very pivotal games, a lot closer games than what Miami or Phoenix or even Minnesota took Denver, and yet Denver ended up winning all 4 of those games. So I think it is undisputed universally that Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA. But as I have said, as we have dove into the NBA now on this podcast over the last 2 months, there is so much talent in the NBA nowadays. It's really hard to determine who are the best players in the NBA. And the more I thought about it, it's really hard for me now after watching the postseason and taking into account things like injuries and personal issues. Because when I did my list prior to the postseason, I was not talking about postseason success. I was not talking about health. I was not talking about, issues off the field. I was just saying in a draft, if everybody was equal, if everybody was healthy, etc., this was NBA 2K with no injuries on, these would be my top 10 players that I would take in a blacktop game, if you will, in the NBA. This list is going to be a little bit different. This list is based off injuries. It's based off recent slash historic postseason success. It's based off mood swings, culture, attitude. Are you a franchise guy? And it got me thinking. I sat back and I thought, and I said, you know, I know on Tuesday's podcast, I promised all the fans of the Brands World podcast I was going to come out and redo my top 10 NBA players. But then I thought, well, once you get to about 7, 8, 9, 10, this guy or that guy, you can make an argument for about 8 or 9, maybe 5 or 6, who knows, of that kind of 7 through 10 sweet spot in the NBA. So I thought, to me, there are really only 5, and you can make a real case for 6 or 7, and I'll give you the case for the other 2 once I reveal the 5. But there are, in my opinion, in today's day and age, only 5 true NBA superstars, because we throw out the word superstar a lot. Some people were calling Jimmy Butler a superstar. Jimmy Butler is not absolutely a superstar. By superstar, I mean, are you productive for 82 games a year? Do you miss a lot of games due to injury? Do you lead your team? Are you undoubtedly the number one option? Are you available? Are you a good culture guy? Are you a leader? And are you that guy that can carry a team to a championship? And obviously, we all need role players to produce. But when push comes to shove, could you put up 45 every single night in a postseason, gauntlet, if you add to lead a team? That is the definition of superstar, and I believe that there are only 5. There's a lot of great number 2s in this league, but there are only 5 quote unquote number 1s in the NBA. Starting with number 5, this player was initially, when I did my top 10 list, the number 2 best player in basketball. Now he's at the number 5 slot. That is Joel Embiid. Listen, I love Joel Embiid. You all know I've said recently I would take him over Nikola Jokic. Maybe not now because of the performance Nikola Jokic put on in this postseason, but Joel Embiid is such a dominating presence under the glass. He can shoot, he can rebound, he can facilitate. Not as well as Jokic, but he can facilitate. He's a proven leader. I don't blame Joel Embiid necessarily for the recent meltdowns the last couple of years. Obviously, Ben Simmons against the Hawks. This year they were up 3-2 against Boston. Could not close out the deal because it's a Doc Rivers, it's a James Harden, it's a Sixer thing. But Joel Embiid did not play well in Game 7. I thought his best playoff series overall was the 2019 year against the Toronto Raptors when Kawhi Leonard just went ding, 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 ding in Game 7 and made the luckiest shot in the history of basketball to put away the Sixers. I thought that was Joel Embiid's year to prove that he could have potentially been the best player on the planet. That obviously did not happen. He's been sick and hurt and sick and hurt, and he has missed playoff games. So a little bit of a durability issue there with Joel Embiid. But when it comes to winning a championship, he has not been the issue. I still think the Sixers lack talent behind Boston, behind Milwaukee. They need a true number two. James Harden is not a true number two, and I don't think Tyrese Maxey is yet. You know, a guy like Damian Lillard, who's been on the trade block, even a Chris Paul, I think with his leadership could bring Joel Embiid. I think Joel Embiid is a number one. I think Embiid can be your best player on a championship team. The health worries me a little bit because he will miss games because of his size, though, and because of his dominance. JoJo is without a doubt still a top 5 player in the game and is a number 1 option. Now, number 4. This may be controversial, but at number 4, I have the guy who I had been speaking the volumes of over the last 2 years, and the guy who I previously said was the best player in the NBA, that being Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yes, I have dropped Giannis from 1 to number 4 over this postseason performance alone, because flat out, if you look at Giannis's career, and a lot like Nikola Jokic prior to the Bucks winning that 2021 NBA championship, I was not giving Giannis his flowers. I said he was about 7th or 8th of the best player in the world, not number 1. I needed to see him go through the gauntlet run and go through Miami and go through Brooklyn and go through Phoenix and win that NBA championship. And he was absolutely dominant in the NBA Finals, a lot like Nikola Jokic was. Yet over the last couple of years, when Chris Middleton has not been on the court, the Bucks are not the same team. And I don't care if Giannis was hurt for 2 games in that Heat series, losing to the Heat in 5, especially with Giannis being back in Game 4 and Game 5, and the one win Milwaukee out of the series was Game 2 without Giannis. Yes, that absolutely does devaluate Giannis. And there are guys that sometimes go on this run, they get breaks. And let's be honest, we would view Kevin Durant differently potentially if that toenail was not on the line when he was in Brooklyn in Game 7 against the Bucks, which, by the way, those 3 games, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, 2021, outside of the games in the finals he played with Steph Curry and all those guys in Golden State against Cleveland in those 2 finals, those 3 games may have been the best 3 games Kevin Durant ever played, because without Kyrie Irving, without James Harden, Durant was able to essentially carry Brooklyn to that moment in Game 7. But I do not believe at this point that, we should be giving Giannis as much, because there are better players in the league, I think, at this point that can carry their teams rather than Giannis, which is why I do have him at number 4. Number 3, ladies and gentlemen, I have Steph Curry. And listen, I know he's 34 years old, and I know Golden State was really beat up going into this postseason. But if you watch Golden State throughout the regular season, and it was really clear the year before, obviously Golden State won without Kevin Durant, though Curry did not win that Finals MVP. Steph Curry needed to win at least one Finals MVP where he was the best player on the court, and he did that in 2022 against Boston. And ever since Kevin Durant left Golden State, since Steph Curry has been healthy, Golden State outside of this year has been perennial championship contenders. Curry might be the best point guard of all time. If you look at his credentials, they're right up there with Magic Johnson. Obviously, Magic Johnson, 6'9", point guard, could pass, could shoot, plays the game a lot like LeBron, transformed basketball. Steph Curry has transformed basketball with his 3-point shot. A lot of guys like Trae Young are emulating Steph, and Steph Curry has basically made it to you have to have 5 shooters on the court at one time in today's NBA. So Steph is a proven leader. He has been the leader of the Golden State dynasty, even with Durant there. You could clearly tell Durant was the best player at that time. That Golden State needed Durant to overcome the LeBron, the Kevin Love, the Kyrie Irving, and even then, just the LeBron and Kevin Love Cavalier team in 2018. But you could always tell that Steph was the head of the snake. And when Steph wasn't getting anything going, when he wasn't passing, when he wasn't assisting, Golden State was beatable. If Steph got going, that was the difference. And I give Steph Curry all the credit in the world for again overcoming all those naysayers like myself that said he never had a finals MVP to be able to carry Boston. I said it at the time last year. Go look it up. That game 4 when Golden State, Steph scored, I believe, over 40 points. They were down 2-1 against Boston. That was a Steph Curry defining legacy game and showed to me that he was indeed that guy. Now, number 2, this may be a shock to all of you, but I believe the number 2 best player in the world right now is LeBron James. Now, he was at number 3 on my list. I don't think LeBron is still the best player in the world. But yet, when I watch these guys, right, when I watch your Steph Currys, when I watch your Giannis's, when I watch Joel Embiid, I don't see killer instinct still like I see LeBron at age 38. And people can say all they want about LeBron got tired against Denver and yada, yada, yada. The now league's all-time leading scorer basically dominated the first 2 rounds of these playoffs. He took apart a young Memphis team that just has a lot of issues, obviously, on their hands. Took apart a Golden State team that was injured and battered, and then again went to 4 very close games with Denver, where he did not close game 4, and I acknowledge that he was bad late down the stretch. But there were times where the Lakers defense could not get stopped. Anthony Davis is not engaged 100%. And again, LeBron at age 38 anymore cannot carry a team to a championship. I believe the guy we're going to talk about at number 1 may be the only guy in today's NBA that can carry a team to a championship. But at age 38, the Lakers aren't even, I believe, a playoff team with just Anthony Davis and no LeBron. LeBron is truly a difference maker because of his leadership, because of his intangibles, and because of his playmaking ability. Now, he can go off in stretches like he did in the first half of game 4 against Denver. It's not as consistent. I still thought he had a better second round series against Steph, which is why I said LeBron versus Steph would determine who is the second and third best player in the world, I believe. And I said it at the time in that second round series. So Lakers won. I thought LeBron had a little bit of a better series. I thought Anthony Davis had a really good series in that situation. So we give it there to LeBron. And then at number 1, obviously now, after winning that finals MVP, the man that arguably carried the Denver Nuggets to a championship, just ran through Phoenix, ran through the Lakers, ran through the Heat, who were red out at the time. Nikola Jokic, who again, couple months ago, I had him in my top 10, though not in my top 5. I had to see it a lot like Giannis 2 years ago, a lot like a lot of people had to see it with Kevin Durant when he went to Golden State and won those 2 championships. Nikola Jokic is indeed a superstar. He is the number 1 option. If you were building a team around somebody today, I would pick Nikola Jokic number 1. Now, the other 2 guys that are not on this list that I said could potentially be. One is Luka Doncic. Obviously, we know 2 years ago what Luka Doncic did, but Jalen Brunson had that incredible Game 7 against Phoenix. And then my big knock against Luka. It's not necessarily injuries, because I think Luka is a great player. He could average a triple double in the first half, all that. He's fantastic. But when you go from the 4 seed to the 11 seed, just with the addition of Kyrie Irving, which again, Kyrie Irving is a very toxic player. But when that happens, I have to knock Luka down a couple of pegs, and I don't think he is a number one. I don't think at this point you can win a championship with Luka Doncic being the superstar, the number one option on your team until he matures. I don't think a Steph Curry, I don't think a Jokic, I don't think a LeBron, I don't think an Embiid, I don't think a Giannis would melt down with Kyrie Irving on their team. We've seen Luka needs a running mate. As I've said, everybody obviously needs a running mate. Jokic needs Jamal Murray. We know Kevin Durant needed a running mate. We know LeBron needs AD. We know Steph needs a little bit of help, whether it's from Clay or Draymond or Jordan Poole or Andrew Wiggins. So I acknowledge that. The difference is, again, those guys still get their teams to the playoffs in a Western Conference where Minnesota was not that good. New Orleans, in my opinion, was not better than Dallas. OKC was not better than Dallas. It was a major meltdown by Luka Doncic. And again, it knocks him down to the point where I don't know if he is truly a superstar. I think he's really close. I think he's the closest thing you can get from a star to a superstar, but we got to see him make a finals and lead the team a lot like Nikola Jokic to be in that group, in my opinion. The other one, shockingly, that I'm going to take out here of the superstar category is Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant has only won 2 championships. They were both with Golden State, and I don't know if Kevin Durant is that leader. A lot like you, Luka, I don't know if he can lead a team by himself to a championship. The closest he got was Brooklyn in 2021. Again, if his foot wasn't on the line, they probably beat Giannis. We look at Giannis different. We look at Kevin Durant differently. Who knows? Maybe Brooklyn goes on to win the championship. But what I do know is Kevin Durant loved Russell Westbrook in OKC, which I always defended, because you cannot win a championship if your name is Russell Westbrook. And I've said that now for the last decade. Russell Westbrook is very talented, cannot win a championship with his style of play. Then he ended up teaming up with Kyrie Irving and James Harden. And when the rubber meets the road with Kevin Durant, when things get tough, he leaves. Now it seems like Phoenix is about to get rid of Chris Paul. There's a lot of coaching changes going on. Monty Williams out, Frank Vogel in. He sparred a lot with Steve Kerr, who is one of the top 5 coaches in basketball. He wanted Steve Nash, and then he fired him in Brooklyn. So Kevin Durant seems to think he's LeBron a lot, where he likes to run the show, likes to get his own players, but it never works out. Unlike LeBron, who wins everywhere he goes, whether it be Cleveland, Miami, back to Cleveland, and then the Lakers, Kevin Durant has only won one place, and that being Golden State, and he's only gotten to one of the finals, that being OKC in 2012, where they won the first game and then got basically swept after that by LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Bosh, and the Heatles team. So Durant, I don't know if he can by himself. He may be the best number 2 of all time, but I don't know if by himself he is a 1. And I don't think at this point Luka Doncic as well is a 1. They both need to prove it. Guys like Damian Lillard, I think is, again, a really talented 2. Anthony Davis, really talented 2. In my opinion, Jason Tatum, a really talented 2. Does not have that dog, that drive in him. John Morant, with his personal issues in his life, you can't really trust him and everything that's going on with him. Jimmy Butler, I think if you put a Steph, a Jokic, that with a Jimmy Butler could be the best number 2 again. There are so many talented players in the league, but there are only 5 guys that have that dog in them, that have that guy in them, that you can trust that they will give you the same amount of input every single night. And they're great leaders, they're good clubhouse leaders, they manage things, they are real leaders of men, and they can be the number 1 leader to a championship team. Keyword, they're being leaders. I've said that 10 times. That being obviously Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry, LeBron James, and then number 1 on my list of the top 5 superstars in the NBA, Nikola Jokic. You like that clip from the Friends World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Friends World podcast right here on YouTube.